And with us now to talk about regional efforts to fight hunger in our schools, we have two guests. First, we have with us Jenny Butcher. Jenny is a representative of the Minnesota Department of Education. And also with us, we have from the United Community Action Partnership, we have Margaret Palin. Margaret, Jenny, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having us.
There are so many ways that we could go into this discussion, but I think it's first important to understand, there are a lot of different programs out there, and I'd like to talk about the programs that each of you do. So, Jenny, at the Minnesota Department of Education, tell us about your program and what it does to help end hunger.
The section I'm with administers all the USDA child nutrition programs, and the programs I work with are the Summer Food Service Program and the At-Risk After School Meal Program. And these two programs can provide meals to needy children year-round. And the Summer Food Program is a program that's more well-known in our state because it's been around longer, and the At-Risk After School Meal Program has only been around since 2010. So we're just getting the word out to let schools and community organizations know that these meals are available to feed children during the school year, and these are both out-of-school time programs.
Okay. And Margaret, your work is specific more to southern, southwestern Minnesota, correct?
It is, yes. We have 4 food shelves within our community action, but we also work with SNAP Outreach in southwest Minnesota, so we're busy with that. And then we work with community meals and other community outreach programs in the food type stuff within the community too, so just trying to get that word out.
Yeah. So when you say get the word out, there are lots of different things that one can think about, whether it's availability of nutrition or availability of programs. When you say get the word out in the education, what does that really mean?
What we kind of work with, we work a lot with partnerships, so that alone, just working together like that, getting that spread out within the communities is really nice with that. In our outreach, we go out to the sites. We go to the community meals, we go to the food shelves, we go to the NAPS program, we go to the cooking classes that the Extension is doing in partnership with us. So we go out to the sites instead of waiting for people to come to us. We're out and about in the community a lot.
Yeah. So you talk about going out and getting out into the community, but one of the things that someone might remember is how big a problem in our communities is hunger. Are there some sort of numbers or a snapshot you can give us of the seriousness of hunger?
Yes, we can. We're finding that it's even more and more. We're really concentrating even on the senior group because that's the group that doesn't ask and they don't want to take anything away from the younger ones. So we assure them that there's plenty of food, but just like say in the Marshall area food shelf, we serve around 480 families a month on an average. So some of the smaller areas, it might be 70 families a month or down to like 25 families a month. And we're talking smaller communities at that point.
Sure, and then also helping them understand some of the ways that they could work their way out of poverty to help so that they can get out of the situation they're in.
Yes, and that is our goal. Part of our mission is to give them the tools and the hope to get them out of that situation, and that's where our piece of education really comes in. We'll do classes, we'll teach them, we'll do financial classes. We want them to move past that situation so they don't have the limited resources that they started with. And life happens sometimes, so we like to get them past that.
And Jenny, in your work, of course, at the Department of Education, education is what this is all about. I know you've worked with a number of different counties and people all over the state to help people become aware that there are programs available for help.
Exactly. I'm all about outreach, and we depend on our partners to help us. The food banks, the food shelves, the United Ways across the state, the CAP agencies, and also we work with Extension and spreading the word across the state. We also have an interactive map on our website, and we have another map during the summer that's available to families to find a location near them that's hosted by Second Harvest Heartland, which is the food bank for this service area.
When you say your website, you're talking about the Minnesota Department of Education
Yes,
website.
the Minnesota Department of Education website. So in order to be on our program, a site does need to become a location that actually provides the meals, needs to be qualified, needs to be eligible, and we use this map to qualify families and I should say sites. And the sites may be eligible based on school data, where at least 50% of the children are eligible for free or reduced price meals in any month of the school year. can be used for that purpose. And then also schools and sites can qualify based on census data, and we show those areas on our map. So any site that's located in these areas can serve open meals, free meals to all children, and claim them for reimbursement.
Sure. So as you look at this statewide, obviously you're dealing with rural areas and you're dealing with urban areas, and I know some of you hear the term pockets of poverty.
Yes.
Where you may not realize that there is one. Are you seeing that in your work? You're seeing sort of pockets of poverty where there's more of an awareness in a particular area?
Well, I depend on those local people to make me aware of those pockets of poverty. They say that, oh, this school is outside an eligible area. How can we qualify our school? Or this mobile home park is outside the area. Or, for instance, an example is Dawson. The food service director identified the city limits and identified the number of children in need in her community, and then was able to offer a program at a school, at a park, at the library. And we're getting more and more libraries also interested in the program, along with healthcare facilities.
And I'm sure for some people too, this becomes about, as they think about kids, the idea that a kid isn't able to learn if they're hungry, that there are huge
Absolutely.
barriers for them. So I'm sure, Margaret, you've seen those kinds of discussions in your work.
We have, just with the kids, and also you take that to the seniors in that age, even just if they're not eating the right foods, the medication doesn't work as well. So when they tell me they're starting to cut back on their medication because they can't afford, we definitely have a little sit down in my office and just show them the senior programs that are out there.
Sure, and I expect one of the things that comes up probably for both of you is that you are dealing in some cases with people who have never had to deal with hunger before, or they've lost a job, and so there's a process that I expect people have to go through to really understand what situation they're in and what help there's available.
Yes, yeah. There's, a lot of the programs are income, eligible, so we go through with that, explaining, especially with the SNAP Outreach, which is the Supplementary Nutrition Assistance Program, the old food stamp, so that's the... Sure. But to go through that and let them know that they've already paid their federal taxes for the years when they were working and they've lost their job, so there is a time frame in there that they can get that little lift. An average family is on SNAP for 9 months. It's not like it's a lifetime, and the average is 9 months, but just show them, sit down with them, explaining that they've already paid for this through their taxes so that they are eligible for this, and it gives them that lift to get them through that situation until they're back working or a medical issue.
Yeah, well, and since you mentioned SNAP, it reminds me, Jenny, that when we were looking at some maps earlier, you had talked about the fact that there is a connection between the state programs, the federal programs, and as you work with the maps, you're able to see that whole landscape, that a lot of these programs do sort of work together.
Exactly. And, what Margaret's been alluding to is sometimes there's families, there's a lot of pride. Seniors have a lot of pride. Regular families have a lot of pride, and children don't want to be faced with a stigma at school. So by having an open site, not qualifying the children, we're able to feed all the children and not show who is actually in need in those communities. And it works best when we can also tie it in with activity, because during the summer, we have a greater incidence of obesity, and we're trying to fight childhood obesity at the same time. Mm-hmm. So we're also always trying to connect with other organizations that might offer activities like the YMCA and the Boys and Girls Club and community organizations that offer park and rec programs.
Sure, just in the same way that as you talk about produce or healthy thing, we've heard a lot of attention to the issue of food deserts.
Yes.
Where people are not able to access the produce, they're not able to access the healthy things, or they're not able to access the affordable things. Mm-hmm. So,
you talk about innovation. Food pharmacies are becoming more popular in the hospitals. Schools are having food pantries where there's more and more mobile food trucks for the summer program, mobile farmers markets across the state for the people who have gardens, and we could use more.
When you say we could use more programs,
more mobile vehicles to reach the families where they are at, because especially in greater Minnesota, it's very difficult for families to travel to a grocery store to get that fresh food and food that's affordable for them.
And I suppose, Margaret, in your work with the food shelves that you have throughout the region, you may have a situation of people not necessarily being able to reach get to the food shelf, right? You run across
We
that?
very fortunate just where we're at, but there's a lot of desert areas with that. We go all the way down to here in Lake Okabena, Westbrook, Tracy, Marshall. So we're very fortunate in that. But there's a lot of little pockets, and even in the city of Marshall, it's considered there's a food desert on the opposite side of town where there isn't, grocery store. But
So as people look at these hunger issues, whether it's statewide or whether it's regional, what's happening? Are we seeing some of these issues getting worse? Do you think they're getting better? What do you think? Margaret?
I think better, because we're really working hard at it.
Sure.
We're even, farmers market, as you were talking with Jenny, now in southwest Minnesota. I could tell I'm probably a little excited, but through the extension, we've been working through a grant, but we were able to open up like 4 markets so we can take their SNAP benefits and use them at the farmers markets. And then with Hunger Solutions administrating through some state dollars, we were able to do matching bucks. So if you came with your card and swiped it for 10, there was $10 matching bucks up to 10. So the success part, we did over even like $5,000 at a couple different markets just with that program. But the success to us is that we were teaching them to come back week after week, spending 10, getting 10, and even spending more, because they went back to probably what we all grew up doing, is raising our vegetables, canning them, freezing them. They were so excited that they could afford to do that. I was so happy for them. That was success.
You could help them to get to the point where they were in a much better place.
Much better place, and they were come smiling, and it was happy. So.
And the same thing with schools. A lot of schools have gardens now, and they need people to step up and actually garden at those locations during the summer. And then they can probably, use those foods to feed their families. And some of the schools are using that produce actually in their school meals then when fall happens, because when the school gardens start, that's like the end of the school year. And then what happens over the summer, so they're looking for community members to help them with gardening over the summer.
So as you work with families and with communities, we know that you often will find people who are going to a food shelf for the first time or getting help for the first time. What about the people who are close to them? Are there sort of signs that people should look for to say, oh, I think these people need help, and how do we help to get them the help that they need to overcome the stigma? Is there a process to that?
Often when we do presentations, whether it's at the colleges or uptown at the senior sites, we're out doing outreach all the time with that. We just say, and so that they don't just kind of listen like, oh, I hope she's not looking at me, need help. But say, who do you know? Do you have a neighbor? Is your grandma? How's your kids doing and stuff? Who do you know that you think could use a little bit of lift at this time in their lives? And then we hand out the materials, and everybody takes it, and they take it home, and then they can either not use it or give it to a neighbor or a friend. But who do you know that, so you kind of put it on the third person. Who do you know that we could help?
Sure. Okay. And as we get to the last minute or so of the program, I'd like to touch on some ways that people can find out more information if they want to know more about hunger or services. And Jenny, I believe you'd mentioned the Minnesota Department of Education website, simply doing a search on that and then looking within that for nutrition programs?
Yes, and if they want to find a location during the summer, they can call the 211 hotline, and they have a list of all the sites. Our webpage also has a list of all the open sites, and then Second Harvest Heartland has a texting service and a map that they show all the sites and the days of the week that they operate in the meal services.
With ours, we also use Second Harvest, which is great. Our United Way of Southwest Minnesota has a site that they're very, very good to us, and so even just their site or our website as well. And then our schools actually have been very generous that have let us put flyers in all the packets and the kids, so just getting that out. But just looking on the websites of any of them, even with SHIP.
Look for United Community Action Partnership,
Yes. Yes.
and we'll have it. Okay,
Yes.
Great. Margaret, Jenny, thank you so much for joining us today on Compass.
Thank you.
And that's it for this week on the topic of hunger initiatives in rural areas. Our Compass producer, Laura K. Prosser, will take it from here and end this week's episode with the next installment of the Compass Literature Corner. Thanks for watching.